So, I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, old men start wars, young men fight them.
And we do have a lot of, I don't have a lot of confidence in this younger generation, not yet.
Well, see, here's what you do. You take a page out of Turkey's book. Okay.
Country of Turkey?
Yes. At age 18, every male and female goes to the military till they're 21.
I think Israel does that too, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go in the military till you're 21, you're in the reserves or whatever, but you're in there till you're 21. Then at 21, you can decide whether you want to stay or you want to get out and start taking advantage of your veterans benefits.
Men and women?
Men and women. One, I believe men and women. I think in Turkey is just the men, but I believe men and women. Y'all want to be hard? You want to be like the fellas? Okay. I mean, I remember being in Alabama at my officer basic course, and this female, you know, we had to carry an M60 and it got rotated off. And she was like, oh, this is just so heavy. Look, then you need to go find another job.
Yeah, but that takes us full circle to, if you implement something like that, the vast majority of our kids right now couldn't pass the ASVAB.
They ain't taking no ASVAB, it's automatic.
I know, but then you get in, like I think Jordan Peterson said the Canadian military has figured out that like 30% of the population has an IQ of under 85.
Have you seen 2 million minutes?
2 million minutes?
Yes.
No, I haven't.
Trey, you got to see 2 million minutes. Okay.
I've been writing down several. I got a laundry list of things to go watch after this conversation. But
Face
he
Traders
says, "What do you
Face
do?"
Traders is on YouTube, by the way.
What do you do when the Canadian military has determined that there's not one job, there's no amount of time, and there's no quantity of financial investment that this 30% of the population can be applied to them to give them one job in their military to be productive and useful. Now, if you extrapolate that out to the general society, that means that there's, on average, about 30% of our population that will never be able to produce or be a productive citizen. They can be lawful citizens, but for some way, shape, or form, they'll always be quasi-dependent in some way, shape, or form. How do we deal with that as a society? Knowing that these people exist across the races. And right now you've got people like Charles Murray, who, if you get a chance, go listen to the interview with Glenn Lowry and Charles Murray. Charles Murray just dropped his big book, 2 Facts About Race in America That Nobody Wants to Talk About. The first one being that mass incarceration tells us nothing. The disparity of mass incarceration of blacks to whites and the ratio of the races without first looking at criminality. Who's actually committing the crimes? Because if it's in proportion, if incarceration is in proportion to the committal of crime, then disparity is a non-issue.
But
Second thing.
But it's not. It's not.
According to Murray, this is, I guess, why his new book is controversial.
Yeah.
According to his data,
it's not. Yeah. But okay.
And Lowry, who's, the MIT trained, first Black Harvard tenured economics professor, currently professor at Brown, he concurs with Murray's data and his conclusions from the data. And not only that, but the second big thing that's not been told is that Murray went and for this book studied the last 40 years of standardized testing and IQ tests over the last 40 years. And what he found is it's ranked Asians do better than whites, whites do better than Latinos, Latinos do better than blacks. So there's a 10 to 15 point difference between whites and blacks in IQ in the bell curve. And so the argument right now is that information helpful in the public discourse? A lot of people are saying no, because that information into the wrong hands is going to be used to bludgeon, oh, all black people are less intelligent than white people. But at the same time, if there is some validity to this study and to this data, if what Murray's conclusions are accurate, then some of the disparity is to be expected when in the bell curve, there's this actual difference, but we can't talk about it. So we have two paths forward. We can say that there's a systemic racist issue of which every time we're told that this is an example of systemic racism, we find out it's not in the narrative that's fed to us. But we can't talk, so we can move forward pointing at things and calling things out in the quote unquote critical race theory way, or we can talk about these things like where violent crime is taking. And again, my point is, let's stick up for the victims. The victims of most of the violent crime. I'm not worried about who's committing the crime, but the majority of the victims of the crime are black people. Can we stick up for them for once?
But that's in every race. Most victims of white crimes are by white people. Most victims of black crimes by black people. Asians, Hispanics, we do harm to our own.
Yes.
Okay.
That's absolutely true.
So one of the dumbest statements in the world is black on black crime. It's one of the dumb, because we never talk about Hispanic on Hispanic crime, Asian on Asian crime, white on white crime. It's just a dumb statement. Crime is crime.
Yes,
okay?
but the reason that, but why do we bring up black on black crime?
Once again, that's that narrative that you're trying to push. When you start, let me finish. You can disagree, but when you're trying to push the image of thugs and criminals, and if you let these people out of jail, they're gonna come and take over your neighborhoods, and that's that fear mongering that we've been talking about, or that we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
and
but that's not what we get. That's not what we're fed. We're not fed.
You're fed that. You're fed that all the time.
Oh.
You are fed that all the time. You're fed that 7 days a week. 7 days a week, you're fed that. Okay.
I've got countless stories of black youth raping and viciously murdering old white women in Georgia and literally getting no news coverage.
Okay.
The only news coverage, look, before there was George Floyd, there was Tony Tempe. There was a man, a white man with his knee on his neck for twice as long, and he died while the cops were clowning him. Nobody heard about that till after George Floyd. For every single instance that we see of what's fed to us, there's a white version of it.
But what did you say? What did you say?
Fed to us.
No. What did you say earlier? Trying to divide. Okay. So I do that to keep you divided. Okay. I do that, and I show you protests at night with all these black people. Look at all these black folks in the street. And then you have conservative white folks, not necessarily saying you, but you have some conservative, we need to come down, more on crime. We need law and order. You got people walking down the street minding their business, not doing anything, but you want to call them thugs, you want to call them rioters, all that other stuff. Not saying that there weren't people in those crowds that did bad things, but those peaceful protesters, everybody, but those are the labels that you use to say black people. Those are the labels that are used. You use labels like thug, use labels like rioter, use labels like looter. Okay, you continue to use labels that are fear.
What do you call somebody who breaks into an AutoZone and goes in and cleans the place out? You don't call that a protester.
Right, but that's not the entire group. And so that's not the entire group. And
I don't know how to distinguish it.
I understand that you don't know how to distinguish it, but once again, if you don't know how to distinguish it, then don't talk about it. Just say,
I'm only referring to the group that went in and looted.
Right. So you refer to that. You don't say, look at these rioters in downtown DC or in downtown New Orleans or in downtown Minneapolis. No, majority of the people are peaceful. Okay, like
January 6th.
Bullshit. Excuse me.
Hold on. 20,000 people.
You mean the tour?
and
You mean the
500
tour of the Capitol? The tour of the Capitol? Yeah. Okay.
Right, the peaceful Capitol tour. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, but you and I both know that if that was 20,000 black folks coming towards the Capitol, they'd have never made it. Let alone made it inside.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree with that because we had the summer of love, and nobody's arrested. There's 500 people that are still held in custody right now from January 6th.
And there are plenty of people who were inside on the Senate floor and all other stuff that are getting probation.
It was a black cop that shot a white woman,
Sure,
and we don't even know who the black cop was.
And he was supposed to.
Imagine if that was the other way around.
Oh, it'd have been all.
It's the narrative.
Look, the white cop that got killed ain't getting no love.
He wasn't killed by the rioters. He died of natural causes. Nothing to do with the riot. No one died. The only person who died because of the riot into the Capitol was Ashley Babbitt. And she was shot by a cop.
And she should have been shot. She should have been shot.
She was unarmed.
I don't care. You're breaking in. It's like you breaking into my house. If you break into my house, you could have, you could have taken your shirt, wrapped it around your hand, punched the glass. You coming through the door, you're gonna get shot. You don't belong.
During the Brett Kavanaugh hearing, when he was being confirmed, protesters broke into the Capitol and took over every office of Republicans who sat on the Judiciary Committee.
Well, that's Ski's. Ski didn't look out for him.
Well, I'm just saying, like, no protester. She wasn't damaging anything. The jury's still out on that one. But my point is that the same way that you don't want the BLM rioters to be mixed in.
But why can't that black cop say, I was fearing for my life?
Fair enough. I'm just saying that in the same way that we don't want to conflate the people who were breaking into the auto zone with the peaceful protesters in the BLM riot protests. I'm just saying, at the same standard we should have.
She was coming through the door, through the window. She was. So hold up, Trey. Yeah, she was. She was inside the building.
Lay on the ground and die.
She wasn't shot outside, down where they were doing the speeches and all the other stuff. You came up those steps and you entered that building. She didn't get killed behind the barricades, any of the other stuff.
Take a selfie on the floor of the joint chamber.
Oh, well, guess we won't do that again.
How many people from January 6th were arrested for the charge of insurrection?
Oh, I don't know, but they all should
have. Zero.
Right.
How many people were charged
like
with
the military
people possession?
Like the military people?
Zero.
Right. Like the military people. Honestly, I think that any military veteran that was in there should have their VA benefits stripped immediately. You are on your own.
You talk about those Oath Keeper guys?
Oath keepers, whether they're oath keepers or not.
Yeah.
If you're in the military and
well, it was confirmed. It was confirmed today. If you go look at Sagar and was it Breaking Points with Sagar and Crystal? It's been confirmed by the Washington Post that there's been hints of that there were undercover FBI, in something this big you would expect there to be law enforcement there undercover anyway. But one of them appears to have is being indicted one of them was arrested as an unindicted co-conspirator. And I think the door is going to open up and you're going to see that this is I don't know about you, Kevin, but I'm concerned about the weaponization of agencies like the IRS or the FBI or the CIA. Like, as an American, I don't think that's good for any of us.
Or the NSA.
Yeah, I don't think that's good for any of us. Mm-hmm. The NSA apparently leaked emails. Someone in the Biden administration requested that Tucker Carlson be unmasked in his emails as he was reaching out to Vladimir Putin to do an interview on Fox with Vladimir Putin. And they were reaching out to the people who could get in touch with Putin. And those people were being surveilled. And they unmasked Tucker's identity in those emails and then leaked them to the media. Like, that's a major federal offense. You can't unmask citizens of the United States. That's the same thing they did to General Flynn.
But Trey, but once again, pawns. It's all things like that are done by design. It's
Yes,
not by
but this is going to
it's not by accident. This didn't like,
no.
oh,
But this
I
isn't.
didn't put this in the right box. So, or I didn't check this box. So this email or his identity went out.
But Kevin, this is ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, CNN headline news. This is every media, New York Post, Washington, New York Times, Washington Post. This is every media outlet that's going to carry the water now. That somehow or another, they're just going to make Tucker Carlson look like some kind of Russian stooge, okay? But yet when Hillary Clinton deletes 30,000 of her emails on her private server.
Not the same. It's not the same.
Of course it's not the same because she's a liberal Democrat.
No, that's not, that has nothing to do with it, bro. That has nothing to do with it. It has
100%.
It's not political. I don't agree.
When James Comey can come out and admit, when he can come out and admit that I am not going to, I didn't charge her, but I brought it out before the election so that after she was elected, the Republicans couldn't immediately start opposing her. It was 100% a political thing. She should be criminalized. That was criminal. It doesn't matter your intent. Remember General Petraeus? He got some action with some classified information in a desk drawer next to him, and they ruined his career.
Trey, once again, like we have said from the very beginning, okay, back to Kwame, to go along, get along, game. Indeed. Okay, and Flynn doesn't carry the clout that the Clintons have in political circles around the world. Okay. The
go along, get along gang is mostly made up of liberal, progressive.
I don't care who it's made of.
Democrats.
That doesn't make a difference. It's not. That's not. No,
because we can make some real progress when we identify the ideology,
right,
that is actively perpetrating and making efforts, doing real things to listen. Immigration right now, the Democrat Party is importing a new underclass into the country. And they're doing it at a faster rate than they were able to do with the Black community after, because 13%, that's just not enough anymore. So we got to bring in these poor refugees from third world countries, give them a little taste, not of mama's cooking, but of Uncle Sam's crack, and they'll come back for more.
Now, let me ask you this.
They'll pull the lever for us.
Let me ask you this. So when you have your H-1B1 visa program for technological,
Facebook or Microsoft,
right, Google, whatever, YouTube, whoever these people are coming in to work for, government agencies,
Pakistan, India, China,
right.
How come we don't revoke their visas when they come up?
How come we let them in the beginning? Why aren't we training our own people?
Because, Kevin, why would I train my own people and have to pay you 90 when I can let somebody else train them and I can pay them 40?
But they're not paying them 40. But they're not paying them 40. They're bringing them in, paying them top dollar.
No, and I'm saying, I have to pay, no, 100% no. They don't have to pay them top dollar. And they know because they're liberal Democrats.
I know folks,
that ICE is not showing up in Silicon Valley.
Listen. So we talked about a little bit of backgrounds. My background is also in IT. Okay. And I was the senior network engineer for the executive office of the President of the United States during that transition period between Clinton and Bush.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was there when Bush first came in. So we're bringing in these folks from overseas. Okay. And I'm telling you, they're getting top dollar. Okay. And that even that 40 that you're paying, if you took 40 and invested it into a school and bought some computers and put together a curriculum. You can teach coding for less than $40,000. Okay, you can have a coding class for less than $40,000. Okay, for 10, 20 students.
Right.
Okay, computer doesn't need a lot of horsepower to do coding. You're not doing graphic design and rendering video or all such stuff. You're coding. You're writing code. Doesn't need a lot of horsepower. Okay, so but we refuse to invest in the United States. This could, and doesn't make a difference whether it's a Democrat in office, Republican in office. We refuse to invest in the people of the United States of America, whether it be fixing our roads, whether it be taking care of food deserts in the hood, whether it be revamping these schools, whether it's better transportation, better forms of public transportation that are much more efficient. We don't invest in the people of this country. We would much rather
the government or the tech companies.
Either one. People
Okay.
People don't invest. So right now, if you live in Louisiana.
The reason I ask is because I just want to stipulate so we don't have to recover this ground. I don't want the government
I know you don't.
investment.
And I know you don't. I know you don't want the government investment.
But I would like to see these multi-trillion-dollar asset companies. But see, these uber progressive Silicon Valley companies, all they're going to do is they're going to fill the coffers of the politicians, and every year they're going to send their lobbies to get more H-1B1 visas than they have, and they know ICE ain't showing up in Silicon Valley.
Right. Now, do you know, have you heard
the Democrats want to run around and they want to make it about, oh, look at the border. Oh, the Republicans are racist. They don't want immigrants. No, that's a red herring. The Democrats are creating a permanent underclass while allowing tech companies that don't support Republicans. It's a brilliant, if I was going to do it, it's a brilliant scheme to maintain power. Right. Create a permanent underclass that's actually bigger than the African-American culture, because that's worked perfectly. And we'll take the same group of people that don't have a rugged individualist culture that they're coming from. They come from a collectivized culture, and they come here and we don't have to pay them as much. And those companies make more money, and we get the campaign contributions from those big companies because we let them do it.
That's no different than the oil barons that you were talking about in Texas, okay, funneling money to the students or whatever. That's no different. Business, whether it's tech business, oil business, runs politics. Politicians are for sale. Republican, Democrat, doesn't make a difference. They are all for sale. And that's all they concern themselves with. It's not concerning yourself with the people or taking care of these people that elected you in. It's how much money can I raise to get back in office again? That's it. It's not about you, me, our quality of life. They don't care about that. They can care less about that.
I agree. That's why I want to shrink. I want to shrink their influence. I don't want to feel the federal government in my life. I'm okay with feeling my state. I'm okay with feeling my parish/county.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in government that governs closest to me governs best. I like to be able to go to my parish council or my local school board, whether my kids are in it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I like to hold them accountable. Yeah, right. I like to go to Baton Rouge during the legislative sessions and testify but I don't want to feel the federal government, and I don't want them doing more. I want investment from business into communities. I want what Kwame's doing. I want Nike to donate 1,000 pairs of shoes, 10,000 pairs of shoes, or whatever. It ain't like they can't afford it.
Right. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
But that's just one example of, like, if it's not being done and Nike wants to hold itself out there as this bastion of progressive thought, and they want to step up and put a black fist with Black Lives Matters and hashtag with the people. Well, how about you do less of that and actually do more stuff that helps people? That's why Kwame's like, stop running around with your fists in the air.
Right, but once again, that's all a game. That's all.
Yes,
That's
100%.
Once again, pawns. Okay, and people don't realize that each and every day they are being played. Well, I'll go back to my daughter for another example. There's some little collectibles that she was getting from GameStop. Okay, and she's like, "Oh, Daddy, I have to get this one. It says limited edition." I said, "That's just to make you buy it." And I said, "They probably made just as many of these as they made of the others. They just put limited edition on this box. Change one little feature, and now they want you spending another $20, $30 for this collectible or more. Don't waste your money. It's the value isn't going to be there. It's going to depreciate in value. It's not like you buy this limited edition, at $20 and it's going to go up to 150 in the next year or two."
So you're just saying that when these corporations run out there with their Black Lives Matter campaign, it's just marketing. It's just PR.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Okay. So when, Kevin, when do you start to get concerned with corporations weighing into matters that are political? Like, when do you start to get concerned and say, thanks, but no thanks? Like, when do you start to put less confidence in the government that they can do anything efficiently?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I didn't say that they can do anything efficiently. I didn't say that they are effective. I just told you what I want.
Now, if I'm sitting in your chair right now, I don't know that for my entire life, the same government that was able to put my ancestors under law in chains, I don't think I would trust them to do anything. I'd be the most anti-government, small government, conservative Tea Party person ever sitting in your chair.
But then that's the same thing. That goes back to what you were saying before. Then there should be no black person practicing Christianity. Christianity wasn't in their lives before they became slaves. They weren't practicing Christianity in Africa, but they came here and started practicing Christianity, which was part of the indoctrination into slavery.
Well, Northern Africa is still part of Africa, right?
Northern Africa is still part of Africa. Okay, but in Nigeria and in Ghana on those coasts where they were taking slaves from, they weren't practicing Christianity.
Okay,
that's all I'm saying. They weren't practicing. And when you were brought to the West Indies, you weren't practicing. That was taught to you. Okay, and all I'm saying.
Yeah, but you weren't taken into slavery for the purpose of religion.
It was used as a tool. We'll just say religion.
I mean, I'm not saying people didn't bastardize the Bible once
right.
people were here. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I understand your metaphor, but my point is that like we can't. George Bush could not have been a complete bumbling idiot and at the same time the mastermind behind 9/11.
No.
So that the majority of Black Americans vote for a party that historically created the Klan, supported secession, created Jim Crow, opposed anti-lynching laws,
and then flip the script.
Segregation, and today supports socialism. I just don't understand how much longer do we have to have? How much longer do we have to have the evidence to show that they're not doing anything to help?
That would be like saying, as a Black man, I shouldn't have a conversation with a white person because of all the things that happened and transpired throughout history. And not just based it on a political party, but just based it on white people in general. That would be like me overgeneralizing. So there are people who have changed their stance, that have changed their views, and those kinds of things over time. I'm not saying that the Democratic Party is all that in a bag of chips.
Yeah, but here's my point though too, is that anybody within the Black community that pokes its head up and speaks in a sort of heterodox sort of way, becomes a coon and Uncle Tom, becomes castigated by the community. You ain't Black enough.
I'm
But
taking
yet,
your black card,
yeah, like,
turning your black card.
so like there is an unwritten rule that if you're Black, you can't think for yourself. You can't support Trump. You can't be a Republican. You can't be a conservative. You have to toe the line. And when you don't, you either get no voice, or the moment you start to get some play, aka i.e. rather Kwame Brown.
Or like Kwame was talking about Candace Owens.
Yeah. Like whether you agree with her or not, she
Has the
is
right
going
to,
to be able to make a case for why she agrees or disagrees with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just saying that, like, you sound like a Black Republican.
Don't tell my daddy.
And but that could be disparaging to someone who's listening to this who knows that maybe that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Like think about, like, I know Kanye's not a great example because of his mental health issues, but like, look, his point was not that he was trying to be Trump's baby daddy. It's just a point that, like, if Kevin, if you want to wear a doggone red "Make America Great Again" hat, this is America. You should be allowed to do that without people taking a second glance. Like, Black heterodox thinking, not thinking like the group think, is just unacceptable.
But that's part of that indoctrination.
Yes.
That's part of that indoctrination from slavery. Okay, so the same way that you separate the field slaves from the house slaves, the same way that you got the slave out there that's gonna snitch when there's gonna be, folks leaving. So there's always been this, keeping this inner turmoil going in the Black community where we don't trust one another, we don't work with one another, that whole crabs in a barrel mentality, that whole thing.
But you should, like, if you get called an Uncle Tom, first of all, if you ever read Uncle Tom's Cabin, like, like, you want to be the Uncle Tom.
Right. Most folks
like, you don't want to be called Sambo.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and just the fact that if somebody, the crab theory, if somebody elevates themselves to a place that they don't have to live in a violent neighborhood anymore, or they can drive a nicer car than what they grew up driving, or they're able to live in a decent neighborhood or send their kids to a better school. Like, that's not the old Chris Rock routine. Hey, I got my master's. Oh, great. What? So now what? You my master?
Mm-hmm.
But hey, I just got back from jail. All right. But this is part of
also,
that subculture.
But also the Chris Rock, since we're referencing Chris, there's nothing that a white man with a penny hates more than an N with a nickel. Okay.
Right.
And so I've seen that take place. I've seen that take place with.
But when Chris Rock goes to the ATM, he ain't looking for the media.
I understand that too. Okay, because he part of that elite class you were talking about. The rest of us, though, we're looking for the media.
No, you at the ATM. No, you're not. No, man. Look at in that comment thread, I was blown away by how that ended. Because look, I hope Kwame can continue his message, because here's what I know. The majority of Black people are never going to hear Tom Sowell, Walter Williams, Glenn Lowry, John McWhorter.
Or Kwame Brown.
Kwame's speaking to a different group of people. And Kwame's speaking to people that have never heard the message of those four intellectuals that I just gave.
Well, you're talking about people that have,
there's a dude who sounds like Kwame.
They've also never heard Kwame speak.
I had many teammates that sounded like Kwame Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Like that dude exists,
all
and that
over.
dude has uncles that
And cousins and
he
brothers.
patted himself. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a friend who's from New Orleans. Okay, we're really good friends. Dude, reminds me of Kwame so much. You know, just the things he says, his actions. It's it's a, you know, and I mean his father, he grew up in a single parent household for the most part. It was just him and his dad, you
right.
know. And his dad died when he was young. He was at Alcorn when his dad passed. And then he went and joined the military and stuff like that. He, you know, left Alcorn and went to the military. But, you know, eventually made his way up here. But this dude, you know, sounds just like Kwame, you know, and
I think Kwame's speaking into a group of people. Like when I looked at the people who called in to talk to Kwame, and I only caught like maybe 3 or 4. Like I'm like, yeah, man, that's people that are hearing what Kwame's saying, and they get it, but they ain't never heard that before. They
I
ain't
think
never seen
I
a.
think they've
They ain't
only
never
heard it
seen
like
an
in the
independent.
barbershop, like in the barbershop or
Maybe,
something like that. They're not
maybe,
hearing it on YouTube from
or any kind of media source.
right, right, right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, and there are other guys, like you said, that are saying the same thing that Kwame's saying, that are out here on the internet, that are out here on YouTube, that have been saying it. Okay.
Correct.
I
Like,
mean,
yeah,
I mean, back in the 80s, when I was at Howard, you know, me and my friends, we were like, man, what if all the top Black athletes in football and basketball all went to HBCUs?
right.
Okay. Well, here it is, 2020, and you got a 5-star recruit that decides to go to Howard.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's like we've been talking about this for the last 30 plus years.
And is that going to be a drop in the bucket? Is that going to change anything?
Maybe for Howard.
Yeah,
Well, he's
maybe.
leaving. He's leaving, I think. He did
Yeah, he probably
the
won't even end up
yeah, I think
playing.
he did one and done. Yeah. And he didn't even play that many games because he was injured most of the season.
Hmm.
So you ain't gonna try to go pro. You know, he may get drafted, may not. I don't know. But you know, these
I
things.
don't think that people like. I don't think, like you said, based on the narrative, based on what we're fed on a steady daily basis, and see that's one of those institutions that I would say yes is racist and needs to be damn near burned to the ground if it wasn't protected by the doggone First Amendment. But they're at a point now for you know we're approaching 40 years where they no longer report the news. They write a narrative and they make news.
Mhm, mhm.
And the problem is that the media is overwhelmingly Democrat. Universities, professors are overwhelmingly Democrat. Hollywood is overwhelmingly Democrat.
But hold up real quick. But just because they're Democrat doesn't mean that they have negative racial intentions. Doesn't mean they're not racist or that they don't have negative views towards Black folks or things like that, just because they're a Democrat.
I look at the results, and I see that these are not ideas that come from conservatives. These are not ideas that come from Republicans. These are ideas that come from the center left to the far left of our country. And I just happen to believe that they've done a horrible job
And,
based on the results.
and
And
I,
it's an injustice. It's the real injustice. Racism in the boogeyman style of racism is not the issue today. The
no,
issue today is Black fatherlessness, out of wed birth rate, lack of educational opportunities, and and it's terrorism. Black people are being terrorized by the media and academia, and is a forced victimhood. Agency is being stripped from the Black community. That is evil. And I could talk about it all day long because I see it happening to brothers and sisters, fellow citizens, humans, people. And it should not be happening. I don't care about the race,
So
but I see it happening to a particular race.
I will tell you this, Trey. I will caution you on this. I will caution you on your statement about Black fathers. They may not be in the home. Being in the home and being in the child's life are two totally different things.
I agree.
Okay. And being active just because they ain't getting along with the baby mama doesn't mean that they aren't an influence in their child's life.
That's fair.
So I would call that's a false narrative that is presented, that Black fathers are nowhere to be found. But the one thing that folks don't want to talk about is how Black fathers were removed from the home during the crack epidemic.
Yeah, the early 1970s.
No, crack epidemic was in the 80s and the 90s.
No, I'm going back to the welfare. I'm going to talk the welfare reform organization, but where they went door to door.
Right.
And said, hey, kick that guy out the house and you'll get all these benefits, government benefits.
Right. But you also got to look at the crack epidemic and all the fathers that are still in jail because of crack stuff. Okay. The disparity, and that wasn't Democrats, that was Republicans that came up with the crime bill for, the disparity between powder and crack cocaine.
Right.
That wasn't, so that's why I keep telling you, or I keep saying we're pawns.
Yeah, but Biden was all on board for that back in the 80s.
Biden was hanging out with Dixiecrats and stuff. So, okay, so I mean, I've always said you got some explaining to do.
Big time.
I mean, that's my thought. But that, once again, that's me. I'm taking onus of that one.
That's what I'm saying. You're a Black Republican.
But I don't trust. No, I am not. I don't trust the Republicans either. I don't.
As a Christian, I don't have a home politically. Mm-hmm. I can't get down with either one either. I feel homeless politically as well.
Yeah. I mean, I look at people and what do you bring to the table? I mean, like when Trump was elected to office, people were like, oh, he's a great businessman. I was like, are you serious? He's going to help the country with business. Are you serious?
I mean, the economy did, for whatever reason, it did pretty good before COVID.
Yeah,
he was pretty Teflon.
But you also had a great jumping off point in 2017. You had a great jumping off point.
It was a good bottom.
Yeah. It wasn't like the bottom that Obama walked into. Okay, it wasn't like that. So, I forgot which comedian it was that was like, why is it that white folks always want to give Black folks stuff when it's not working?
Right.
It's messed up. Now you can go ahead and do it. Our team is at rock bottom. Now you can play quarterback. Right.